It's been a few days now since the vice presidential debate between Tim Walz and JD Vance. And there are a few takeaways, key takeaways that people are having that I'd like to address now. Moments that people just remember. Now, you recall from the Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris debate back in September. Do you remember that everyone said universally Trump came off angry and chaotic and disorganized and unprepared, and Kamala easily won? And then TikTok sampled that particular clip where Trump said, they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the pets of the people that live there. And Trump's loss became a win from that one clip. Now we know that that truthful hyperbole of many thousands of foreigners bringing strange and unfamiliar customs and cuisines and beginning the replacement of a native population who did not consent to this influx of many thousands of immigrants, and the city itself did not know that they were coming. That viral moment spoke to, it revealed, it brought to attention a much deeper and worse, even, issue. And we saw something similar multiple times in the vice presidential debate between Tim Walz, governor, Minnesota, the running mate of Kamala Harris, and JD Vance, senator from my state, Ohio nationalism. Now, in the immediate aftermath, of course, the mainstream media chose the mainstream side and said, from a mainstream perspective, obviously Tim Walz won. He came across as such a nice guy, Midwestern nice guy, just a nice Midwestern guy, nice dad. That was the refrain. Nice guy. Oh, such a nice guy. Nice. He was so nice, civil, nice. Nobody wants a nice guy. In fact, there's a book called No More Mr. Nice Guy. No woman wants a nice guy. Nobody wants to work for a nice guy. Nobody wants to follow into battle a nice guy. Nobody wants to vote for a nice guy. And that is interesting because this is another example of an anchor like I've been teaching you. Anchors, literary anchors, vocabulary. An anchor is a word that is already dense with meaning. So that when you drop it, it sinks. Now, this can be good or bad, the sinking. Sometimes you need your anchor to be let down from your ship so you can stay there. Other times, you don't want to get stuck where you're at, and you drop an anchor, and it's over. You will not be proceeding any further in that conversation. Conversation being like the sailing vessel. Nice guy is a linguistic anchor. Nice guy, putting that on Tim Walz, the media calling him nice guy. Now, they're trying to contrast that with weird JD Vance or threat to my democracy, Donald Trump. But what's happening here is when they're calling Tim Walz a nice guy. He came across so nice, such a nice guy, nice man, nice dad, Midwestern, nice. What they're doing is dropping a linguistic anchor on him saying Tim Walz is not desirable to women. He's not desirable at all. Now, this was further compounded a few days later when there was a clip of he and his wife were out. It was sort of a candid clip. I believe that they were at a donut shop or something like that. And she treated him, Tim Walz's wife, treated him like she was a mother and he was her misbehaving, frustrating toddler. That was the dynamic of ordering him around, treating him like she was the mother figure and he was bad little Timmy. And she'd had it. That was the vibe. And that is how nice guys get treated. That was interesting moment, little linguistic thing there. Linguistic anchor. Now, the memes that are coming out of the vice presidential debate are, of course, the Jim from The Office moment where JD Vance gave that look to the camera, that knowing, break the wall, fourth look to the camera, like that, something like that. And while Tim Walz was talking, it was a moment of knowing, like Michael Scott would be talking in the Office show, and then Jim Halpert character looks at the camera, gives that look when Michael is saying something absolutely absurd, ridiculous, deceitful, over the top, and seems to possess no self-awareness. But Jim isn't on the joke, is in on it. He realizes that that's not appropriate, that's ridiculous, and that's insane, and yet everyone but him doesn't realize that. That was the look, and that is the meme. And so everyone on the internet, just like the eating the cats, eating the dogs thing on TikTok, we're seeing that happen on Instagram, we're seeing it happen on Facebook, we're seeing it happen on Twitter, TikTok, even with clips where people are making a meme out of it. For example, when I asked my 7-year-old if he washed his hands and did he use soap. Hilarious moment, just absolutely epic, fantastic. So coming back to the situation here, the visual, the over-the-top moment was both Trump's and JD Vance's. Because what we have here is style over substance. Now, the substance was fantastic, by the way. We notice how JD Vance, with the opening question, told his story, and he said us. And he said that he was going to tell a little bit about himself because most of the American people don't know who either of us are. So he made it, they don't know who you are and they don't know who I am. Now, of course, JD Vance is a celebrity, obviously. Tim Walz is a governor of a state. And so he was both humble and power checking Tim Walz with that brilliant move, and then told his story and many relatable moments about the cost of food, choosing between food and essential prescription drugs, the difficulty of having suffered through the opioid epidemic, personally witnessing that, personal experiences and the devastation of that, being raised by a grandparent, the struggle, the Rust Belt horror that so many have experienced and that he grew up in. I want to remind you of the fact that when Donald Trump was inaugurated in 2017, in his speech, he referenced the empty factories. He said that they stand like tombstones among the landscape. J.D. Vance grew up in the cemetery. And so he's come full circle, truly, with this moment. And that imagery, that profundity, I don't believe is lost on anyone, you or me or any observer. And that was powerful. And the moments that Tim Walz is being remembered for are misspeaking, like the fact that he knows many, or rather that he has been friends with many school shooters. And the world did a double take and said, wait, what? So part of being persuasive is not being anti-persuasive. You do not want to create clips like that. You do want to create clips like pulling a Jim Halpert at the camera. You do not want to give the deer in the headlights look that Tim Walz did so many times, with eyes wide open and the eyebrows scurrying their way up his forehead, and the upside down smile like this. This is the Tim Walz. This is the Tim Walz face. Contrast this moment. Contrast this. This is Tim Walz. I'm a governor, Minnesota. That's a democracy. That's a democracy. Versus, I mean, who do you want? Seriously, who do you want? Now, another aspect of persuasion is appearance. Look at photos of JD Vance from 2015, 16, 17. I met JD. I spent a day with him, 2017, October, I believe. And it was sort of an interview-like conversation where he's asking me a lot about my career as a ghostwriter, and I talked to him about the memoir experience, and it was a great time, and he spoke, and he was fantastic. At the time, he looked like a bit of a baby face. Now, with the full beard that he has and losing a little bit of weight, different man. He looks like America's dad now. But something else that I want to point out. You notice how he's no longer being called weird, or at least the weird insult isn't sticking anymore? That's because he and his people, cleverly, within a few days of that insult coming out, after he was announced, they reframed what kind of weird. Not weird kid on the playground who gives the girls the ick at recess, but weird like the way a teenage girl refers to her dad as weird. An endearing sort of weird. Oh, Dad, you're so weird. How did he do that? Well, after the weird attack was being thrown at JD from all angles by everyone in the media, the Democratic affiliates, he began sharing his people and his affiliates, people like me. We began sharing memes of him smiling, wearing a vest, wearing flannel, wearing dad shoes and dad shorts, like looking like a dad. Memes of him saying things like, "Weird JD Vance says, working hard or hardly working?" And moments like that. And I remember Jack Posobiec shared, breaking, JD Vance disappears from campaign trail, spotted mowing his front lawn. And then there was a picture of a guy on a tractor wearing the famous dad uniform, like of a boomer dad, of t-shirt with tan or khaki cargo shorts, right? Shin high white socks and New Balance shoes. Almost instantly and permanently disabled the weird attack vector on JD. This is after stuff that was pulled back from his memoir, was exaggerated from his memoir. Hillbilly Elegy became a mainstay of the assault against him. Notice how none of this is about substance. It's all about style. I want to remind you of the book that's now in its second edition, Win Bigly by Scott Adams. Second edition. Get it now. I helped Scott, as I do with all of his books now, revise and expand that. New content, new chapters, new predictions, new the works. It's great stuff. But again, subtitle, Persuasion in a World Where Facts Don't Matter. And the facts really don't matter. They really don't. They don't. And that's okay. But we have to understand why they don't matter. The reason they don't matter is because that's not how people make decisions. It took us so long as a civilization to return to our roots as tribal people, as instinct first, as FOMO first thinkers, where we buy on emotion and justify with logic. Watch this. What's cheaper, $1 or $2? Well, the product that's $1 is cheaper, obviously. Well, what if I told you that the $1 one was single use and the $2 one was weekly use? Oh, well, now that you have more information, it changes. Now, what if I told you that the one that was $1 is shoddy, cheaply made in China? Shoddy workmanship, generic brand. But the one that's $2, made in America by veterans. It's an America First product. If you're the right kind of person, you're going to resonate with that. And now you perceive it with more value, even though it's double the price. And yet it's more valuable to you. So you're going to pay more. So that either way, you're buying on emotion, feel like, I gotta choose the cheapest one. That patriotic stuff is great, but my budget, like you feel like you can't afford. You feel like it's not that big of a difference. You feel like you're not going to make much of a difference by purchasing this $1 product made in China. Maybe you're really not contributing to slave labor. Maybe you're not betraying America workers. Cope. It's all the emotion. Same with the $2 purchase, by the way. Neither of these is immune to emotion. I'm an American patriot. I believe, son. I vote. Patriotic. I vote. And then you perceive yourself, you have an inflated sense of self-importance as a citizen. As an America First patriot, supporting those veterans. Support the troops. George Bush, 9/11. Now, that's where my mind goes with support the troops. And remember the yellow ribbon that was on all the cars, everywhere. Windows, even. Shops, everywhere after 9/11. That was one of those moments that everyone remembers who was alive at that time. Even me, I was a kid. I had just turned 10 years old the previous day. And we knew what we were witnessing was the end of everything. We knew. I started something new and was not good. We all witnessed that. Even as a 10-year-old, I recognized that. JD lived through that. That's part of his story as well, becoming a Marine, GI Bill. And so JD Vance's story is a story of this country. Whereas weird Tim Walz is over there befriending school shooters. and maybe other shooters too. In any case, the key takeaway is it's about style. It's not about substance. Yes, the substance is important to back it up, but it's emotion first, logic second. It's style first, substance second. And you have to find out what's appealing in terms of style. And nice guy is not stylistically appealing. Deer in the headlights, Tim Walz, not stylistically appealing. But if you're trying to win over millennials, pull a Jim Halpert. Pull a Jim Halpert.